Welcome to Close Up Radio, where our hosts, Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters, bring you the amazing stories of people who answered the call to unlock their potential and taken control of their own success with authenticity, creativity, persistence, and resilience. Close Up Radio special guests share their knowledge and wisdom so you, the listener, can live the most empowered life possible. Close Up Radio. And now, here's today's host, Jim Masters.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We're live worldwide on Close Up Radio. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and we appreciate you joining us from all points of the globe. It's really an excellent time when we're together. We always explore such rich topics and so many incredible experiences together. And again, we thank you for making us a part of your day today. Somebody who is a great friend of Close Up Television and Radio is Maureen Santora. Now, I've had an opportunity to actually know her and her husband, Al, for a number of years now. We've done several very inspiring projects together, from television to radio and much, much more. And she is one of the most authentic and spirited and real and caring people you'll ever meet. If you have the pleasure of actually meeting Maureen in your life, if you see her in a supermarket, just go up and say hi. She's that kind of person, and they give back. And she and her husband have been given back through loss, through experiences of life. And we were just having a great conversation moments ago about how we should cherish every moment because it's fleeting and precious. And, we know that anything can change on a dime, and it usually does. And out of all of this work that she does, she is an education advocate. She has been involved in the educational system, teaching since 1967. So if you want to talk to an expert, somebody who's seen all the different teaching methods, methodologies, lesson plans, administration changes, all of it, just the whole way that education has morphed and changed in our country, and if not the world, Maureen is truly an expert at it. And she has seen a lot of things change that she's not too happy about, because it's changed for the worse and not really benefiting the child or the parent. The teachers as well, too, feel strapped sometimes. They want to do more and want to be able to offer more. She's a powerful advocate for education. Matter of fact, she and her husband Al developed the Christopher Santora Educational Scholarship Fund, where they have awarded more than $500,000, if not $750,000 in scholarships to New York City's elementary, middle school, and high school students. And this is all in honor of her son, Christopher, who was an educator himself, following in the family footsteps of his mother, and then also in the fire department, following the footsteps of his father, Al, as well. And he was lost, unfortunately, on 9/11. And so Maureen and her husband, Al, have made it really their life's mission to not only keep Christopher's memory alive, but also to really guide and help others, to use what she's experienced in a positive and loving way for really the betterment of young minds, allowing people to understand what is important and why it's important to emphasize education in such an extraordinary way. That's what she does, And she's seen it all. Again, she's been doing it since 1967, so she's an expert. And it is my honor, as always, and pleasure as always, to welcome her as we have a series of incredible episodes we're doing exclusively here with education advocate Maureen Santora, coming to us live and direct from New York City. Maureen, good afternoon. Always a pleasure to have you here on our show, and we welcome you.
Well, I'm delighted to be back with you, Jim, and I'm glad we're going to have another conversation. We always have much to talk about, especially regarding, education and all the current things that keep changing, which is part of the problem. You can't to change everything on a regular basis if you don't have a reason to change it, except for a new, chancellor or a new, mayor, or you need to have a reason to make changes, and we don't have that yet. And I'm hoping, that will, at some point be considered an important thing to do, is to keep what is good and to maintain, some kind of sensibility, in education. Just change it because there's a new program on the market. So.
Yes, absolutely. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, you've been on the scene since 1967. So, I mean, who better than you to really understand the changes and the experiences, and some good things, but a lot of things maybe not so great. What would you say is probably the number one thing that is different now than then that you really think needs to be changed or is an issue to you?
Well, I would probably say that the relationship between the parents and the teachers have changed the most over the years. And when I started, parents were very respectful of the teachers, and teachers, included them in activities. And today, parents are much more busy. They're not with their kids. They're working. They're busy. They have very busy lives. And so that communication has suffered. And in order to raise a great child who is educated, and I mean that, in a pure sense, somebody who has a desire to continue to learn, somebody who is interested in reading books, and somebody who is loves to learn. Yeah, in essence, you need to have a very good relationship between the parents and the children, and parents and the teachers rather, and that needs to be developed. And I'm hoping, that in the future we will have more community programs, perhaps, or parent classes to help the parents learn all the new ways that are, that you're teaching math and reading, and the old ways that we learned by memorizing the times table, by memorizing the family, words, by doing all those things, have gone to the side. And now you have to learn how to teach your child how to do the math that is very cumbersome at the moment and very difficult to understand. So parents get very, very frustrated. But perhaps if there were opportunities for parents to have classes to learn the new methods that keep changing on a regular basis depending upon who is in charge, that helps them to become more involved with their children's learning, because they still are the primary educators of their children. Teachers, can teach the academics, they can teach the facts, they can teach a lot of things, but it is the parents who are the primary educators of their children, and nobody should ever forget that. And we have communities now that don't want parents to be involved in any kind of decisions, but it's their children, and they are responsible for their children, and they need to be involved. And sometimes you need to be in a position where what is being taught in order to help teach your child in case he's struggling. So that would be, for me, the number one thing that has changed. There are other things, of course, that have changed over the years, but the relationship and the communication. And, I'm not talking about texting the teacher or, emailing the teacher. I'm talking about a person-to-person conversation. That has changed in this very, very busy world. And parents and teachers need to have opportunities where they can communicate. So if that means, that one afternoon every 3 months is dedicated to, teachers having classes with parents, that's a possibility. But there's a lot of things that can be done to help the parents learn how they're supposed to teach their children, and also have a better communication with the teachers. Teachers are available. They're available. They text, they email, they do, but that's not the same as having a face-to-face conversation. You learn a lot about meeting somebody in person, seeing them in person, hearing the inflection in their voices, hearing their frustrations. You learn a lot when you're in a person-to-person conversation. I would say is the biggest change that has occurred over the years.
Now, how can we work to make this better? What are some things that we can do and that should be done now to really make this better? Because obviously it's something that, is not necessarily getting better and needs to be addressed. What are some ideas that you have through your expertise and through what you've observed that would be, action plan number one?
Well, I think, periodically, parents can come and visit their children's classroom. They do it once a year, usually in October or November in New York City anyway. They have open school week where parents are allowed to come. But that doesn't serve the parents who are working full-time. And so possibly having, an evening meeting periodically with the teachers. And so now you have to involve the union, who is, almighty in so many things. But if you're interested in the children, you make these kinds of things occur, and you provide the resources so that teachers will come or stay after school or come early to school if that makes it easier, for the parties. But you have a flexible kind of schedule where parents meet with the teachers and an overview, which is done in a lot of schools now, but it's only once a year. And during the course of the year, different things happen and different curriculums occur. And so you need to have this as an ongoing communication where teachers can say, well, this is what we have to teach. These are the methods that we have to teach them, dictated by the state. So let me help you and teach you how to do this, because this is different than you were taught when you were in school. And those kinds of communications, teachers are always interested in communicating with parents. I've never met a teacher who didn't want to have a conference with a parent, especially if the child is struggling in some way. So it's not teachers objecting to this. Perhaps it's the union contract. I don't know. I'm not up on that. But there must be a partnership with the teachers, and teachers need also to be included in the decision making. That all these new curriculums, they come down the pike every September. We have a new way of teaching reading. We have a new way of teaching math. Well, there are many ways to teach reading, and most teachers know the various methods that work. And when they have a child in the classroom, they look at the child and say, well, this child needs intensive phonics, or this child would benefit from more whole language because they're more advanced perhaps, or they see, words in a different way. So you tailor-make your program so that the child will be successful. Most teachers know this already. But if they are dictated to only teaching one kind of teaching of reading, it doesn't suit everybody. One size doesn't fit all. But teachers should be included in this, and any kind of program should be considered a pilot program so teachers have feedback. Teachers are never included, ever, ever, ever. I still speak to, friends who are still teaching, and they are never including it in any of the decision making. It's always decisions that are made by people who are in authority, many of whom have spent very little time in the classroom, many who have not been in the classroom for a great number of years, and you need to be in the trenches and you need to be with the children in order to see the things that they need. So I think teachers need to be more included and empowered, and I think a more proactive approach to, it's like the village teaching everybody. Well, that's the same kind of concept. The more people who have a voice in determining what is good for the children, the better the system will be. Having a few people make all the decisions when they are not with the kids, physically with the kids, doesn't work. It never has worked, and unfortunately today we have a prescribed teaching system where years ago teachers were allowed to have these aha moments. They were allowed to branch out. They were allowed to have kids investigate things that were really interesting to them that might not be part of the curriculum, but they could do an extra credit, or they could do, some sort of a research if they were older on a topic that they were very, very interested in, because that's what learning is all about, investigating things that interest you. And that's what you get when you have a lifetime learner, that you venture out and you continue to learn about things that maybe you don't know anything about, but then it becomes a passion of yours and you continue. That's what we want to create. So, we need to have more opportunities, and maybe, city councils or community groups could have offerings of these liaison situations between parents and teachers specifically, so that maybe once every 2 months, once a month, whatever, they would be able to communicate with each other on a kind of an informal but formal basis, when you have a plan and you know what it is you're going to discuss, so everybody comes to the table realizing that this is what we're going to discuss. It does not become a gripe session. It becomes a learning session.
Yes. See, that's so important. And a learning session is really what it is, because some of these problems really need to be fixed, as you say. It begins with also respecting the innocence of children, right?
Correct.
Children,
yes.
They don't have to take a side, and they should be free to just go to school and play with their friends and decide for themselves when the time comes. And that's what we did as kids. We, had time to learn and time to play and time to breathe and time to be kids.
That's right. That's right. Well, one of the things that disturbs me a lot is the elimination of the variety of names. It was either playtime or learning centers or interest groups or interest centers that young children engaged in. It was a socialization and an education at the same time. And little kids learn from each other. So you have, let's say, in a group where, you might want to call it the Black Center or the Architectural Center or, Engineering Center if you want to, people want to get planned, but it's basically a block center where you, take blocks and you build a structure and the kids get all involved and, they communicate with each other. So if there's a group of kids that are interested in that, you might have a child who's very bright and you might have a child that's not so bright, and they're together, and it doesn't matter because their interest is in this building this structure. But they learn from each other. They learn to share. They learn to cooperate. They learn to tolerate, ideas that they may, have one idea of how it should be, and then somebody else or a group say, no, we should do it the other. So they learn all these skills in a non-threatening way that is almost hidden. The children don't realize that they're learning these skills, but they are learning them. Well, that, of course, makes them their students. They learn critical thinking in a non-obstructive way. They have a wonderful time, and they think, of course, that they are playing. Of course, in essence, the play is only part of the education. It's the socialization. It's the learning the skills. It's the being able to, speak with each other. It's, the masks have done a big damage to very young children because they need to see each other's faces in order to be able to learn. And I'm hoping that in New York City, this mask mandate will be eliminated very, very soon. They keep talking about it and, postponing it, but that is damaged kids. That is damaged kids because they need to see each other and they need to see the expressions on each other's face. But that has been almost eliminated. It's been eliminated in the kindergarten. It's now being phased out in pre-K, and that's just outrageous because that's how kids really learn. And when you get into an upper grade, if you've had a mastery of all of these skills of how to communicate, how to, socialize, how to, be involved in proactive decisions, that you've planned a project and you're, deciding ahead of time how you're going to build it, that helps you tremendously when you learn the hard education where you're reading and you're writing and and that has been almost eliminated. And there was an author years ago. His name was Arnold Gazelle, and he wrote about different ages of children years and years ago. And there were many other authors as well for early childhood, and every one of them have said that play is a crucial part of a child's development. Now, you can incorporate learning in play, and you can, kids can think they're having a wonderful time, but they're learning a tremendous amount. That has been eliminated in the New York City schools. I know that. I'm not sure about throughout the city, or the state, but children need that socialization in order to complete their personalities and be able to sit for long periods of time. They are now sitting for long periods of time, and they are going from reading to writing to language arts to math to science. That's not appropriate for a 4 or 5 or 6-year-old. They need to have the opportunity to get up and move around and socialize with friends so that they learn from each other. So I'm hoping that, some wise individual, will bring back some of that to the school. I don't think kids are going to end up being behind doing this. I think they will end up getting ahead. And I think that that should be reversed immediately.
Do you think it will be, or is it
Well,
really
I think, people have to start fighting for this. They have to start fighting, and they have to be able to be courageous enough to say, listen, this is what the children need. That's where, the teachers come in, because all the teachers will tell you how essential this is. They'll tell you that, but they're never asked, and they need to be included. And, I don't understand why, I remember a supervisor telling me, I was in an upper grade, that my job was to teach to the test. I was so horrified. I was speechless. And I said, well, I'll never do that. I'll never teach to a test, ever. Mm-hmm. And if I'm supposed to get a certain grade on this test, it will be because the children have mastered what it is I am teaching them, but I won't spend my entire year teaching to a single test so that, the district looks good. But that's where we headed in, and we're still in that, and, if you're interested in teaching learning, and you're interested in educating people, and you're interested in them loving to learn, you have to put in place all the things that will enable them to love learning, and exploration, and inquiry, and creativity, and analysis, all are part of that. If you're bored, you're not going to learn anything. If you're engaged, you learn a lot. And so I think we have to start speaking out. And I don't understand why the union, who is a proponent of, or supposed proponent of children, is not advocating for this. I don't understand this at all. But the oldest teachers incorporate this on the sneak because they know how important this is. They know how important it is for kids to engage with each other and kids to communicate with each other and have meaningful conversations. And in spite of the fact that people think this is playing is not important. Playing is essential to the development of every child. Every child. There was a book written called All I Needed to Know in Life, I Learned in Kindergarten. I'm paraphrasing the title. But the book was really spot on in the fact that it taught all the skills that a person needed to be successful in the job market, that, the socialization and the communication and the tolerance and the, even the defeat that you didn't succeed was all learned in kindergarten, because you had this ability to socialize with your friends, and you had these groups, and the teacher would monitor, and I had a whole, list when I was in the kindergarten, everybody, I didn't allow the same people to play only with the blocks. They had to go into the science center, or they had to go into, the writing center, or the art center, or, whatever centers were up for the day, and I changed them on a regular basis, and I had a list, and most teachers, do that because they want to have a whole person. They don't only want to have a child that only wants to build blocks. They want them, they had a housekeeping center, and I don't know whether that's now prohibited or not, but those kinds of things, those socialization skills, and if you go around and you watch kids learn, they have great conversations with each other. They're really very sophisticated in a lot of ways, and they're, maneuvering and debating and, communicating with their peers, and nobody is doing it in an angry, hostile way. They've learned that, they can get their point across in other ways. Well, that's very important in your lifetime. And I'm just very, very, very disappointed that they have not seen that is essential to kids. Now, I'm not proposing that that's all the kids do in the daytime. They're now in school all day, so they obviously need academics. But this should be part of a day every single day. If it's for half an hour, if it's for 45 minutes, it should be incorporated in the day every single day, because that creates a better student. And the shy student sitting with somebody who talks all the time will, start out not talking, and then at some point they will start to talk. And the one that's talking a lot will realize at some point, well, I need to be quiet and let somebody else have a turn, and that just happens. You don't need to demand that, and you don't need to, and playing is, I think, very important in life, just like art is very important in life. And creativity and imagination and, all these things that I guess, are considered old-fashioned, they work and they should be continued, So
yes,
that's just how I feel.
So true. I like I like the way you say that. In such a humble way towards the latter part. That's just how I feel. That's what makes you special, Maureen Santora. And I also love that expression, on the sneak. I've never heard that, but I'm going to steal that one. They're on the sneak because they want to help the kid. They shouldn't have to be on the sneak.
No, they shouldn't have to be on the sneak,
no,
but it works.
That's it. I want to mention too, also, folks, the Christopher Santora Educational Scholarship Fund as well. I know we only have a few seconds left, but you're working on that website, right?
Yes. The website is being changed, and as soon as I have it up and running, I will definitely, I'll let you know. Yes.
Okay, good.
We had
so
some
while
difficulties,
you're listening to this,
and
you want to make sure it's updated. So for folks listening right now, follow along with our series of conversations with Maureen Santora, and as we go along, we'll have that updated information for you. Maureen, always a pleasure and a delight, and even with the levity, it's very important what you're stressing here, and I hope people pay heed to it and really consider what you're bringing to the table, because you've been doing this a long time. Thanks for joining us on the show, and we look forward to chatting with you continually.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's wonderful to talk to you as well. And just tell everybody that they can empower themselves to be vocal. that's something you can do in your lifetime. So.
Absolutely, yes, and don't wait, do it now, right? Absolutely.
That's right. Yes, there's no time like the present.
You have a wonderful rest of your day, and always a pleasure, Maureen. Take care now.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'll speak to you
welcome.
soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care now. Bye-bye. Jim Masters here, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, our very special guest, education advocate, Maureen Santora. She'll be back as we continue a weekly series with her exclusively here on Close Up Radio. As you can tell, she's passionate, she's authentic, she means what she says, yet she's very humble, and she truly cares, and that's the bottom line. Thanks for being with us in this episode. I invite you to stay right there. In 30 minutes, I'll be back with another fascinating guest right here on Close Up Radio. Until then, for all of us, have a terrific day, and bye for now.
You have been listening to a broadcast from Close Up Radio, a division of Close Up Television Incorporated. For more information about our show and to be considered for future broadcasts, please visit closeuptelevision.com. You may also learn about us on social media and listen to us on podcast and internet radio. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have an empowered and productive day.